we come across these revelations, stories, and some of it we get, you know, he was at this guy's place, and then he made these statements. And then we get to verse 41, and it says, but give that which is within as charity, and then all things will be clean to you. And we go, I'm not sure exactly what that means. As I've said over the course of Luke, Luke is unfolding a story. So all these things are unpacking Jesus as the God-man to us. Jesus as Emmanuel, God encased in flesh. And so if this was happening today, and you were a fly on the wall, or you were one of the Pharisees, or you were one of the disciples, how would this be playing out? We find that this is going to be Jesus exposing something. Exposing really what's on the inside. So clear yesterday, I think most of you know that I wash the dishes at home by hand because we don't have a dishwasher. That's not an advertisement for getting one. Because I enjoy it, and I actually listen to things with my headphones as I'm washing. But anyway, the point is that there was a pot there, and there was stuff inside. And so I turned it over, and I made sure the outside was really clean. And then I looked at the inside. And the inside was, to put it mildly, was corrupt. And I could have rinsed off the outside and put it in the dish drain. And then Kathy goes to use it the next time, and it's like, wow, the outside is so shiny and pretty, but the inside is corrupt. So that gives you a little idea of where we're going to be going on this. And just to say, I suppose telling you what I'm going to say is that a person's heart is God's greatest concern. That should be no surprise to you. But it will be a surprise to some of these people. We begin with verse 37. Now when Jesus had spoken, a Pharisee invited him, asked him to have lunch with him, and he went in and reclined at table. Of course, as always, there are several things here which I want to touch. First of all, the Pharisee, and there were other Pharisees and there were scribes gathered around. We know that from the rest of the passage, which we're probably not going to get to today. So the Pharisee was there, and an invitation is given to Jesus to eat the morning meal with him. Now, it says lunch in the New American Standard. It says in the King James, the old-fashioned way of sitting down to eat meat. And all that is the old-fashioned way of saying to eat. But what meal is this? It would be the meal that would be after services. So we get that here because we have an early service and we're done, and then we go down and have potluck, and we're done and cleaned up by noon. So we don't want to call it lunch. Lunch is whatever. So it's a morning meal. It's not breakfast, it's not lunch, it's the meal after services. We find then that Jesus, having gone in, he reclined at table. There's no passive here. He wasn't made to sit down at table, recline at table. You realize, and I've explained this to you, they have word evades me. Small tables, how's that? And then they have pillows, and they literally recline. They lay like this, recline at table, and then eat. So that's what he did. Now this is unlike the previous invitation back in chapter 6 or 7, where he was invited in, and we find that it was passive. He was made to recline at table. In other words, there was no opportunity for him to wash his feet, have his hair anointed, to receive the kiss of Oriental friendship entering the home. And so it's like he entered the door and says, sit here. And this is different. What we see is Jesus coming in and not taking the time by the door to wait for the typical washing of the feet, washing of the hands, and so on. He just comes in and is ready to eat. So that's the picture. That's the setup. Which makes you then ask, why did he do that? And of course, the story tells us why. Because right off the bat, in the next verse, but the Pharisee, when he saw, marveled that Jesus did not first wash himself before the morning meal. So, let's just talk about this Pharisee for a moment. In this story, and keep in mind now, we are entering into the realm of hostilities toward Jesus. Pretty much starting in chapter 11, we're going to skip the whole matter of the 70 and the Samaritans. We're going to leave that go and say that things are picking up steam here on the hostility toward Jesus. Open hostility, not just subtle hostility. So when we read this, we don't see any hostility. We don't see that this guy had evil intentions, that there was some trickery. All we have is that the Pharisee invited him, and then it was I'm going to say, a God-intended setup for what is going to transpire next. And the opening up of the floodgates of a response from Jesus. So I don't see, or at least Luke doesn't reveal to us or for us, that the Pharisee is a Jesus hater, a conniving, arrogant man who only invited Jesus so he could trick him. I don't see that. So, what does that make this guy then? It makes him a man who is so much like so many people we know. They're not evil intended, but they are also, I'm going to say, not on the right path. So we can't call them Hitlers or Mussolinis or Stalins, but the bubble is wrong. Now I'm going to give a story that I just came across this morning as I was reading my email. And it's about an organization called In Decline. In Decline is not pro-death. They're not pro-life. They say that abortion is a miracle from God that we need to embrace. They function in Arkansas, which is a conservative state. And Arkansas has one of the 5 largest statues of Jesus in the world. And at some point in the last week, they, under subterfuge, they entered in and they put up a huge sign that said, in the hands of Jesus, God bless abortion. Okay. Then they explained themselves in I'm going to say a diatribe, which has a negative connotation. It was interesting because it wasn't hateful in the sense of anything you can talk about Trump. All of a sudden, somebody just all it is vitriol, and we saw that. It wasn't like that. What it was I'm going to say an explanation on why abortion is such a healthy thing for society. I'm sorry to laugh, but because it's incongruous to me. And it was an explanation, and I read it, and I thought, okay, there's several things here that make me say that somebody within this realm of In Decline knows the Scripture. and stop and think about, and I'll say it in the language that I would use, and I apologize, but any leftists, do you know of any leftists that would ever say anything, God bless? Is there a leftist that you can name that would say God bless anything? God bless hate, God bless me. You would never hear a leftist say that. So I sit there and I'm trying to put two and two together on this because it's interesting to me, especially in light of this Pharisee, that these people would not just come out and call all of you empty heads. They would say that you have a problem in here that delivers out this way and prevents God's miracle of abortion from happening in Arkansas. So, a kind of a long explanation there of actually something very unusual because I've never heard of a person that was pro-abortion who was not anti-life. I don't know of anybody. And then this group came up and they put God bless abortion and on Jesus, and there was just something about it that struck me that somebody has a biblical background. In all of this, somebody has a biblical background. And it just reminded me so much of this Pharisee who had obviously biblical background, because Jesus comes in, lies down, is ready to eat, and the guy is astonished that this rabbi, this teacher, this Jesus, didn't wash his hands. We have a serious problem. And you go, really? You've got to keep in mind that the Pharisees had their parameters. And they knew the scriptures. By the way, is washing hands biblical? It is. But, here's what's interesting. It's never commanded. It's biblical, but you never are commanded to wash your hands. Kind of interesting, don't you think? So, here Jesus comes in. He did not wash his hands. Did he break a law? Nope. Did this guy think he broke a law? Well, he was amazed that Jesus didn't do it. So Jesus, in this Pharisee's mind, is set over apart a little bit. He would be suspect to the Pharisee. Now, we do note here that it doesn't say that the man said this. It doesn't say that the Pharisee said, "Excuse me, Jesus, I noticed that you did not wash your hands." All it says, according to what Luke tells us, is when the Pharisee saw this, he was amazed, he marveled, he was astonished that Jesus didn't wash his hands first before he sat down to eat. So the story is unfolding for us in that, again, why did Jesus accept this, as a chicken invited by the foxes to, hey, come on for lunch? Why did Jesus do it? Well, we have the setup here. We have the setup that Jesus knew what he was doing, that this Pharisee didn't even necessarily come with an intention to stab him in the back, quote unquote, stab him in the back, that the Pharisee was astonished that Jesus didn't do what he would have done as a religious leader. So we have this setup. And now we have the beginning here, starting in verse 39, of a general condemnation. So what is it? Here we go. The Lord, notice that Luke calls him the Lord, and I'm not going to reiterate that because I've said it almost every time when it comes across that I believe that Luke is referring to him as Yahweh. But the Lord said to the Pharisee, "Now you Pharisees clean the outside of the cup and the platter." And that's a true statement. Very specific, by the way, because it's you, Pharisees, It's 3 times in here. That is the you, twice with the Pharisees. So it's unambiguous. It's very clear. You Pharisees. Okay. What do you guys do? Well, you do what Wayne does. You clean the outside of the pot, and then you put it in the dish drain, because you say no one's going to pick it up except the cook. So everything looks good. I'm going to hang it up. It's Revere ware, so it's beautiful, shiny, with the copper and a nice handle, and it's hooked perfectly. It's beautiful. You Pharisees clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but inside of you are full of robbery and wickedness. You see what Jesus just did there? He went from crockery to you. Talking about cups and platters to you. Now, what is this pillage and evil? Well, it's two generic terms for what's on the inside. Pillage is, well, we know what pillage is. There's a lot of words that go with that. Plunder, rapine, the act of plundering. It's an act of immorality. And evil is obvious. It's definitely not on the right side. So, what are these things? I'm going to turn, you can if you wish, to Isaiah chapter 1. And I'm going to read Isaiah chapter 1, verses 10 through 17. This is at the beginning of Isaiah's book of prophecy. And it's God talking about God's people. And there's some real surprising things here. The first verse, I have to stop at the first verse. In verse 10, it says, "Hear the word of the Lord, you rulers of Sodom. Give ear to the instruction of God, you people of Gomorrah." It's like, wait, stop. Aren't you talking to Judah? Aren't you talking to the people of Israel, to the Hebrews, to the Jews? Aren't you talking to them? Why in the world would you call them Sodom and Gomorrah? It's like, Sodom and Gomorrah have been gone from existence for longer than the United States has existed by about twice. They've been gone. Approximately 700 years. And yet, what does God do when He talks to His people? He says, "You rulers of Sodom," egg on the face, "you people of Gomorrah." Wow. So, definitely the opposite of complimentary. Verse 11. "What are your multiplied sacrifices to me, says the Lord? I have had enough of burnt offerings of rams and the fat of fed cattle, and I take no pleasure in the blood of bulls, lambs, or goats." What were the people doing? They were going through the motions. They still did the Jewish thing of the law. But what is God saying? I don't give a rip about that. I'm so sick and tired of all the blood of these animals. Continue, verse 12. "When you come to appear before me, who inquires of you this trampling of my courts?" Who requires of you this trampling of courts? When they come in, it's not the sweet sound for a teacher, the pitter-patter of little feet coming in to sit down in their classroom and fold their hands and say, "Good morning, teacher." It's not that. It's the trampling in. You might as well wear hobnailed boots into my temple and do whatever you're going to do. Because what are you guys doing? Verse 13. "Bring your worthless offerings no longer. Their incense is an abomination to me." God does this. And what are the people doing? They're sacrificing, just like the law says. And God's going, whoopee, it stinks. "Bring your worthless offerings no longer. Their incense is an abomination to me. new moon and Sabbath, the calling of assemblies. I can endure iniquity. I cannot endure iniquity and the solemn assembly. It's like every person in the congregation is a thief, a liar, a pretender. I'm sacrificing to God and I can't wait to get home and do the fill in the blank for whatever sin you want to fill in the blank with. Verse 14, I hate your new moon festivals and your appointed feasts. They have become a burden to me. I am weary of bearing them. So when you spread out your hands in prayer, I will hide my eyes from you. Yes, even though you multiply prayers, I will not listen. Your hands are full of bloodshed. You get the picture here? God really cares that you came, quote unquote, came to church this morning. God really cares. Because it's like, I can't wait to get out there and then whatever sin, fill in the blank. So verse 16 and 17 actually gives a didactic, God's heart to these people. Wash yourselves, make yourselves clean, remove the evil of your deeds from my sight. Cease to do evil, learn to do good. Seek justice, reprove the ruthless, defend the orphan, plead for the widow. Does God help out the problem there? Yes, He does. He gives an alternative. Two more. Third chapter. Anyway, Isaiah 58, verses 4, 5. Behold, you fast for contention and strife and to strike with a wicked fist. In other words, when you do your fasting, you do it with the intent of, I just can't wait. I'm fasting so I can go beat that guy up. I can't wait. You do not fast like you do today to make your voice heard on high. In other words, again, you're doing the fasting, but it's to beat somebody up. Is it a fast like this which I choose, a day for myself to humble? Is it a fast like this which I choose, a day for a man to humble himself? Is it for the bowing one's head like a reed and for the spreading out sackcloth and ashes as a bed? Will you call this a fast, even an acceptable day to the Lord? Is this not the fast which I choose, to loosen the bonds of wickedness, to undo the bands of the yoke, and to let the oppressed go free and break every yoke? Is it not to divide your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your home? When you see the naked, to cover him and not to hide yourself from your own flesh? Then your light will break out like the dawn, and your recovery will speedily spring forth, and your righteousness will go before you. The glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. He says, take care of the heart. Take care of the heart. I could care less about your fast, unless it's a fast of humility. Is that what you've got? Is that what you're doing for me? You're fasting in humility? I'm going to read one last. There's 4, but I'm only going to read 3. Micah chapter 6. Micah chapter 6, verses 6, 7, and 8. It's famous for the portion of what uncovers the heart. Micah 6, 6, 7, and 8. With what shall I come to the Lord and bow myself before the God on high? Shall I come to him with burnt offerings, with yearling calves? Does the Lord take delight in thousands of rams, in 10,000 rivers of oil? Shall I present my firstborn for my rebellious acts, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? In other words, shall I sacrifice everything, including my family? Will that make God happy? What makes God happy? Verse 8. He has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. So, what is going on in Jesus' heart when he walks into this lunch with this Pharisee and he doesn't wash his hands. It's a setup. It's a setup for him to strike into the heart of these pretend religious people. There's, well, the end of verse 39, you are full of robbery and wickedness. Does this amount to anything? When this is full of thievery, of evil, he closes this, and I say he closes this because in verse 42, which we're not going to get to, as I realized where I was going to go with this, I said, no, I probably should have done 42 through 44, the woes, but that'll be for next week. So we close off with verse 41. But give that which is within as charity, and then all things are clean for you. Okay, so what do we have here? How did I miss that? Where are we at? Oh, sorry. Verse 40, thank you. How did I miss fools? Fools! Fools! You can see in the Greek, I have a VOC that's vocative. That's a name. Not you are a foolish person, but you're a fool. You are a fool. You are a fool. Whoa. Okay. Fools. Did not he that made the outside make also the inside? In other words, this is the outside. Okay, God made the outside. There's no question there. We get it, the Creator God. What about this? What about this? The inside. What does God really see? Does He care that you have gray hair, no hair? He knows. I don't know whether I can say He cares, one way or the other. But I know He cares about this. You fools! Don't you know that the one who made this too? And what I only read you I only read you 3 out of multitude of portions of Scripture, but they were so powerful. It's like getting hit in the head with a 2x4. Fools! The one who made the outside also the inside created. So, nevertheless, the things that are within give, and that's I almost want to say, it's not throwing, but I want you to get the idea, in a sense, when you throw something, what? You've done it. It's done. And that's what this is. Give it. And it's done. It's a command. Give the alms. The things within, give as alms. And behold, all things will be clean to you. Are clean to you. So what does he mean by that? We understand that generosity, which is called in both Islam and Judaism, is almsgiving. Almsgiving is a generous spirit. So, we understand that pleases God. A giving heart pleases God, period. But a giving heart, if every Sunday one of you held up the check and made sure everybody saw it and then put it in, and it was always a big check, it wasn't just for $1. It was a big check, that wouldn't be almsgiving. That would be me giving. Me. It's all about me. See what I'm giving? And it's not about this, it's about this. So almsgiving is a giving spirit, and the things within we are to give as alms. Let it go. You gave it. It's done. So this isn't about almsgiving itself, but it's the need to apply the same principle of generosity, of almsgiving to the glory of God, that we give to issues of the heart. In other words, if we are concerned in a generous heart that so-and-so is taken care of, we meet that need, we want to help, then make sure that that matches the heart. And it isn't given so that Wayne knows that I'm the biggest giver in the church. You all see the number of zeros, right? Okay. Just happy to be here. So, what Jesus is saying in this, the simple message, is a person's heart is God's greatest concern. Not the washing of the hands, not the sacrifices, not the fasting. All those things, when they're coupled with a heart that is giving within the heart, as one would give alms literally, that then makes it all clean, all good. And one last thing, we remember that Jesus and the Pharisees are still all living in the Old Testament, under the Old Covenant, right? The Old Covenant goes from back with Abraham and Moses, Abraham, Moses, and so on, all those things coming forward, and Jesus and these Pharisees are still in there. So these things, the washing of the hand, they're still important. But even in the Old Testament, God was saying, I'm so sick of your sacrifices. This is ridiculous. It stinks. Just don't even do it. Do it from here. And so it was important that Jesus said, all things will be clean to you when your heart matches what you do. Does that make sense? So, this morning, we are all those who have chosen to attend, whether you be on Zoom or whether you be here, we've all chosen. And we can all be that really pretty pot. It's I love the copper, I love the shiny, I love that beautiful handle. It's hung up there, you all can see it. But I want to make sure each one of us has our heart correct and connected with God who made us through His Son, Jesus Christ. Father, to your glory, may we give ourselves, may we not hold back, may our hearts put a smile on your face. To the glory of God, in Jesus' name, amen.